This is the 8th grade My Course Selections for 22-23 school year spreadsheet tutorial. You'll see there are 5 different sections in this spreadsheet. The first is My High School, Core Class Teacher Recommendations, Support Class Recommendations, World Language Courses, and the last is Elective Class Selections. I'm going to zoom in and talk about each one of these sections individually. The first section is pretty easy. You're just going to be telling us which high school you're going to next year. Note that if you choose other, then you'll need to write in the name of the high school below. The second section is Core Class Teacher Recommendations. This is what you're going to be using next week when you meet with your teachers to get their recommendations. You'll see that there's a row for each course subject: math, science, civics, and English. So next week, when you're meeting with your math teacher, for example, you'll go under teacher you met with and select your teacher's name. Maybe you have Miss Barr. And then you'll go to the next column and choose the recommendation that she gives you. So let's say maybe she thinks you should take Algebra 1 next year. You'll choose Algebra 1. Now, there is a double block math option. We talked about that earlier, where you would take math every single day, and instead of an elective, you can have 2 math classes. If you or Ms. Barr thinks that that's something that would be good for you to take, you're actually going to note that down here in support class recommendations. I'll show you that in a minute. This last column is called class setting recommendation. Most of you will be picking general. However, some of you, your teacher may say to choose team taught or self-contained based on being an English language learner or having an IEP. And your teacher can explain to you how those class settings help you learn. Then you'll go to your next class. Let's say maybe your next class is civics. You'll select your civics teacher. Let's say maybe you have Mr. Drews. You'll be selecting which civics class he suggests that you take next year. Remember, there are 2 options for Annandale High School, and there's 2 options for Falls Church High School. So it's important to know which one you're going to. Choose the one that he tells you is his recommendation. Fill out what he tells you to for the class setting. And then you'll do the same thing for your science and English classes. If you have questions about this, don't worry. You just need to have the spreadsheet open and your teacher is going to help you fill it out and explain why you're talking, or excuse me, why they are recommending that class for you. Okay, support class recommendations. Only fill this section out if your teacher tells you to. A lot of you will have this be completely blank, and that's okay. For support class recommendations, whether it's your math teacher suggesting a double block math, or maybe it is another teacher on this list, you will select their name, and then you will select the support class that they are recommending for you. Okay. This the world language section lists every single world language course that is available for 9th graders. If you are in a world language class this year, like French, Spanish, or Spanish for fluent speakers, you're going to meet with your teacher and they're going to make a recommendation as to whether you move up to the next level or maybe you retake the level you're in next year. And you're going to put that recommendation here. If you are not in a world language class this year, you still need to fill this section out. You can say, no, I don't want to take a world language, or you can say, yes, I want to try French 1 or Spanish 1 or Spanish for fluent speakers, which is for students who already speak Spanish, but want to get better at reading or writing and grammar. There's also some new options in high school, which is Arabic or Japanese if you're going to Falls Church High School. Japanese is not available to Annandale High School students. The last section is the elective class selections. we are going to be talking about these more next week. The list of elective classes for ninth graders is over here on the left, and it's pretty long. If you hover over each elective option, you'll see a link to a video pop up where you can learn more about the class. If there wasn't a video made for a certain class, it'll link you to the course catalog, which has a written description of the class there. Again, if you want to get a head start and start looking at some of these, maybe even watching them with your family to prepare to choose next week, that's totally fine. Eventually, you'll be moving your top 5 choices over to this section. If you're in a music class or theater class, or you have a conversation with one of your elective teachers about a suggestion that they have for you to take next year, you can go ahead and move that into your first choice elective to make sure that it's something that you have a good chance of getting into. Okay, so there's a lot in this spreadsheet, but we're going to do it one at a time with your teachers. Really, the only part you would be filling out by yourself is the elective part at the bottom. Everything else you're going to have a teacher helping you to do. If you have any questions, you can ask your teacher right now before going to your advisory Schoology classroom and making a copy of your spreadsheet.